So, Ethan, I was looking at this report from PJM Interconnection. They operate the power grid across 13 states, and the numbers are just wild. If you wanted to build a new data center in Northern Virginia right now in 2026, the queue to just get a connection to the grid is 7 to 10 years, a decade just waiting in line for a plug.
It's literally a line out the door for electrons. And Northern Virginia is the absolute epicenter, right? Loudoun County handles, 70% of the world's internet traffic? But this isn't just a local bottleneck anymore. The sheer scale of what an AI training cluster needs today it's just a completely different beast than the old cloud. We're talking gigawatts, Maya, not megawatts, gigawatts.
Right. And to put a gigawatt in perspective, that's roughly the output of a whole nuclear reactor, or like 2.5 million solar panels. And because these massive AI models, like the ones training on 100,000 GPU clusters, they can't just pause when the wind stops blowing or the sun goes down. They need that power 24/7, absolutely flatline consistent, which is, it's driving a really dirty compromise.
Yeah, the speed to power race. Because training a frontier model can't wait for a new solar farm and a giant battery array to get permitted. So what do? You turn to whatever's already plugged in.
Exactly. And what's already plugged in are fossil fuels. Look at what happened with the Brandon Shores coal plant in Maryland. It was scheduled to shut down, to completely retire. But PJM they literally had to step in and say, wait, keep those coal boilers burning, because the local grid load from data centers is growing so fast, they couldn't risk losing that baseload power. We are keeping 50-year-old coal plants alive to train chatbots.
It's the ultimate irony, isn't it? We're using 19th century technology burning dirt to power 21st century artificial intelligence. And the engineering reality is that the grid was never designed for this localized, hyper-dense demand. Usually power generation is centralized and demand is spread out. Now you have a single building demanding more power than a medium-sized city, and they want it yesterday.
And who pays for that? That's the part that gets me. In places like Oregon and Virginia, local utility companies are spending billions to upgrade transmission lines and build gas peaking plants to handle this tech surge. And those costs, they get rolled right into the rate base. So everyday families, people who might not even use these AI tools, are seeing their monthly electric bills climb by double-digit percentages just to subsidize the local data center alley.
Yeah, the digital becomes physical, and then the physical gets billed to the neighbors. It's a massive systemic friction point. But look, this bottleneck is actually forcing the tech companies to completely abandon the old playbook of just plugging into the local utility and hoping for the best. They're having to become energy developers themselves.
Which brings us to this massive power grab we're seeing. Literally, tech giants are trying to bypass the public grid entirely by buying up whole power plants. I mean, look at Constellation Energy reviving the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant, the Unit 1 reactor, specifically to sell all of its output to Microsoft for 20 years. Or Amazon buying a data center campus directly connected to the Susquehanna nuclear plant in Pennsylvania.
See, now that is an elegant systems workaround. Nuclear is the holy grail for this because it's zero carbon and it's always on. But here's the catch, Maya. If Microsoft or Amazon scoops up all the existing nuclear power for their data centers, that's clean energy that is no longer flowing to the public grid to power homes and schools. We're just shifting the green electrons around while the rest of the grid has to rely on gas and coal to fill the gap.
Exactly. It's a shell game. You're greenwashing the data center's ledger while making the surrounding community's energy mix dirtier. But, okay, Ethan, as the resident hardware optimist, how do we actually redesign this? Because we can't just build 50 new nuclear reactors by next Thursday.
Right. You can't. So you have to look inside the data center itself. We have to replumb the engine. First, there's liquid cooling. Air cooling is incredibly wasteful. You're basically using massive, power-hungry AC units to blow cold air over hot silicon. By moving to direct-to-chip liquid cooling, where liquid coolant flows directly through microchannels on the GPU itself, you can cut a data center's cooling energy by up to 90%. 90!
Huh. So you're saying we stop trying to cool the whole room and just cool the actual chip?
Exactly. It's like cooling your car engine with a radiator instead of just pointing a giant house fan at the hood. And then you look at the chips themselves. The transition from NVIDIA's older H100s to the newer Blackwell chips, and whatever comes next in late 2026, it's all about performance per watt. If you can get 20 times the compute power out of the same energy footprint, you start to bend the demand curve.
Okay, but even with more efficient chips, if the overall demand for AI features keeps growing exponentially, doesn't the efficiency gain just get swallowed up? Like Chevin's paradox? The more efficient we make it, the more of it we use, and the total power consumption still goes up.
Yeah, it's a real risk, which is why the final piece of the redesign isn't just about hardware, it's about software and scheduling. We're starting to see what we call demand-side peak shaving. Basically, you don't run your massive, non-urgent AI training runs when the local grid is straining during a hot summer afternoon. You route the workload. You send the computing job to a data center in a region where the wind is blowing, or you run it at 3 a.m. when demand is low. You make the AI compute fluid.
So instead of the grid adapting to the data center actually flexes to match the grid? That would be a massive shift from the old move fast and break things tech mentality.
It has to be. The physical reality of copper, silicon, and transmission lines doesn't care about software sprint cycles. If tech giants want to keep building the future, they're going to have to help rebuild the grid. All right, I think that's our time for today. Good chatting, Maya.